afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Gregory, and I'm president of the Kentucky Distillers Association. We're a nonprofit group founded in 1880 that is the worldwide voice of bourbon. 15 years ago this month, the KDA asked Dr. Paul Coomes to study the impact of our signature bourbon and distilled spirits industry on the Commonwealth's economy. We've now done 7 studies, and I think all 7 are here today, since 2009, one every other year, to chart bourbon's incredible growth, and all of them are publicly available on our website at www.kybourbon.com. There are way too many people to thank for this unprecedented level of success, but please give me a minute to recognize several of the distinguished guests who are here with us today. Governor Andy Beshear, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, Senate President Robert Stivers, House Speaker David Osborne, Agriculture Commissioner Jonathan Schell, Auditor Allison Ball, Attorney General Russell Coleman, Treasurer Mark Metcalf, Rocky Atkins, hey Rock, Senior Advisor to the Governor, ABC Commissioner Allison Cox Taylor, ABC Distilled Spirits Administrator Maggie Woods, Senate Majority Leader Damon Thayer, Public Protection Cabinet Secretary Ray Perry, Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet Secretary Lindy Casebeer, Energy and Environment Cabinet Secretary Becky Goodman, Kentucky Chamber President Ashley Watts, Senate L&O Chairman John Schickel, House L&O Chairman Matthew Cook, House Democratic Whip Rachel Roberts, and I believe, I don't know if Senator Rocky Adams is here with us or not. We also have, obviously, Representative Derek Graham of Frankfort, Senator Funky Frohmeyer, and I'm going to forget everybody's names and everything, so I apologize to keep going. Representative Sherilyn Stevenson is over here with us. Representative Chester Burton, they keep telling me names. And other members of the Executive General Assembly. We like to say bourbon brings people together, but when was the last time y'all saw this many leaders of Kentucky in one room, and we didn't even have to promise samples to get them here? So I'm your MC today, and we have a pretty tight schedule because these folks need to get back to their daily jobs of running the Commonwealth. So even though my introductions will be brief, please let me say thank you to everybody on behalf of the KDA and our industry for your hard work and your visionary leadership in getting us to where we are today. And as you may have heard me say before, we make the whiskey, but it's the leadership in this room that has put us on the map. So with brevity in mind, it's my honor to introduce Governor Andy Beshear, recipient of the KDA's 2023 100 Proof Award, our highest honor for elected officials. Governor.
All right, thank you. I thought Eric was going to say we make the whiskey and the leaders in this room consume it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Eric for welcoming us and for that kind introduction. I am so happy to be here today with folks from both the executive and the legislative branch, Democrats and Republicans, to celebrate and strengthen Kentucky's signature bourbon industry. Bourbon is America's native spirit. And even during a time when Kentucky's whole economy is on fire, this industry continues to play a unique and enormous role in driving our economy and representing Kentucky to the rest of the world. When I was a kid, if you asked folks across the globe about Kentucky, they'd probably talk to you about chicken. Now, they most certainly talk to you about bourbon. This is our introduction in many ways. People seeing this craftsmanship, this amazing product that we create in Kentucky, because as we like to say, 95% of the world's bourbon is made in Kentucky, and the other 5% is counterfeit, Attorney General. It takes work. It takes work to continue an industry and its growth like this. That's why I was proud to stand up to harmful bourbon tariffs when they threatened our distillers. I worked with U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo to make sure that they were reversed, and then that we kept that reversal in effect recently when we had to continue those policies. Those protections were just extended, and it's helped ensure our producers can reach markets around the world. Bourbon's success continues to benefit so many Kentucky families, and the momentum shows no sign of slowing. Since the start of my administration alone, we've welcomed roughly 100 spirits-related new location and expansion projects totaling $3.9 billion of new investment and creating more than 1,670 new jobs for our Kentucky families. And we're coming off some of the biggest, best years this industry has ever seen. When you look at 2022, it wasn't just a good year for bourbon and spirits, it was the best year for growth that this industry has ever seen. Bourbon also helps support and drive Kentucky's agriculture. Distillers here use more than 13.5 million bushels of Kentucky-grown corn each year. With the KDA's help, driving record visits to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and new and expanded visitor centers drawing record crowds. Bourbon continues to drive Kentucky's tourism industry, which in 2022 also had its biggest and best year for economic development on record, though we expect when 2023's numbers come in, Lindy, that they'll even be better, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're here today to unveil these new findings about 2023, another blockbuster year that shows there is a limitless future for bourbon in Kentucky. And we'll hear more about the details later, but it's my honor to announce some of the highlights of the Kentucky Distillers Association 2024 Bourbon Economic Impact Report. Based on the data through the end of last year, this new report has found that bourbon is generating a $9 billion economic impact in Kentucky. The newest findings are that the industry generates more than 23,100 Kentucky jobs, with annual salaries and wages pegged at $1.63 billion. When you look at total compensation, which includes benefits, $2.2 billion helping our Kentucky families. Each of those metrics, economic impacts, jobs, and wages, are brand new records for the industry. There are currently 100 licensed distillers in the state. They're operated by 84 companies, and get this, in 42 Kentucky counties. We have seen, especially over the last several years, the growth of this industry now reaching over a third of Kentucky's counties, adding great economic benefit. Was just with the judge in Garrett County talking about the new distillery that's going to go in there, and the excitement that it generates. One of these really large investments is something special. We look at the number of licensed distilleries. It is 5 times the number of distilleries the state had than in 2008 when they did that first study. Since 2008, we've also seen 135% growth in employment in the industry and 160% growth in wages. These would be amazing numbers for any industry, and so we're grateful to the bourbon industry. Everyone involved should be extremely proud of how this industry has positioned itself at the very top of the global spirits trade and continues to lift up so many of our families. In fact, this latest report says that if the industry continues to grow at this same pace, growing since the same pace since 2009, in just a couple of years, 2025, those numbers should be 28,000 jobs, $2.2 billion in wages and salaries, $10 billion in total production, and generating more than $436 million in local and state taxes. I always think one of the best statistics is that we now have over 2 barrels aging for every Kentuckian, and all of us want to take our 2 home when we leave here today. But today's Bourbon Impact Report is just a reminder of how much we can accomplish when we focus on moving the Commonwealth not right, not left, but forward. Because we know bourbon isn't red or blue, it's brown. It isn't Democrat or Republican, and these jobs are good and lift everyone up. This is an important time for Kentucky. This is historic progress. Grateful for everybody who's here to celebrate it today. This is one Team Kentucky supporting this industry and the jobs that it creates. This is a signature and delicious product for the Commonwealth. So congratulations on another record-setting report.
Thank you, Governor, for those remarks. Now I'm going to turn to our next speaker, who is Senate President Robert Stivers, twice a recipient of our Distinguished 100 Proof Award in 2014 and 2023, and only one of 11 legislators who have a 100% track record of supporting the industry on key legislation over the last 10 years. Senator, thank you.
Thank you, Eric, and appreciate being here with my colleagues, the governor and lieutenant governor. I want everybody to know that I've been aware of distilleries virtually all my life. Where I come from, we have a lot of them, just none of them are legal. So I'm encouraging Eric to bring some legal ones to my area. Sorry, Attorney General Coleman, I shouldn't have said that. But no, look, I want to talk about a few years ago, and the governor's given off some great statistics about what's happened in the bourbon industry. In 2013, when there was a change in the Senate, we were able to meet with a group of the distillers and owners of the companies that were here at that time. And the trajectory wasn't as good as it was then, because there was only 4.5 million barrels, I think, stored in Kentucky. I think today there's getting close to 12.5 million barrels. So we met. Yeah, it's grown a little bit. 3 for us. Almost. You can have your 2, I'll take everybody else's 1. But with that, we had just watched what I called the Frankfurt Bourbon Party, which was the equivalent of the Boston Tea Party. A whole series of distillers led by then Bill Samuels went out on these steps and emptied a bottle of bourbon on unfair taxes to protest the unfair taxes. And so Senator Thayer and I went and met with him and said, if we get the chance to change the trajectory of the tax code, we will do it. And we did. We were able to do the dollar-for-dollar offset on the ad valorem tax, which then gave the industry the ability to start expanding, investing that money. It was a $12 million hit to the general fund at that time, net negative revenues. But because of that, and then the leadership of John Schickel the year after, with the Tourism Development Act and the incentives, we were able to create what I've always called the napatization of the bourbon industry. Some people call it bourbonization. We've changed the dynamics and the trajectory based on reducing taxes, changing the regulatory system to where what the governor and I have now spoken of have created one of the best trajectories for an industry. And when you look at flow charts, you start seeing where it was in 2008, how it really jumped in 13 and 14 and continues to grow today. Where we have increased property taxes because of the expansion, increased employment, increased ad valorem tax, which went over $50.2 million going back to local communities on that one tax alone. So think about the difference in 2013 to today. $47 million difference for a $12 million loss. Good taxing policy, good regulatory policy. So to everyone here, this is what we can do when you think through the system and think what a good business dynamic will do. More taxes, more jobs, greater base. So to Eric, Gregory, and all the individuals involved, congratulations. This is what we can do in Kentucky with good policies enacted by this group. Thank you all so much.
Well said, Mr. Speaker, and yes, I need to mention Senator Schickel, Chairman of Don't Know, who is retiring. It's telling us Senate Bill 11 of 2016 was a hallmark moment for us, just to allow us to sell cocktails at distilleries. Now we have bars and restaurants and B&Bs and everything in distilleries. It changed the face of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail overnight. Our next speaker is the Speaker, House Speaker Representative David Osborne, who also received the KDA's 100 Proof Award last year, and who also is one of the KDA's All-Stars, who has a perfect voting record on priority legislation over the last decade. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Eric. President Stivers mentioned that he and after the bourbon party, that he and Leader Thayer were busy negotiating new tax policy. That was in 2013 before we were in the majority, so I didn't get to make policy. I was busy on the front steps with a sponge soaking it up. that my friend Bill Samuels had poured out. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here, for highlighting the details of this report. Also, obviously we're here to celebrate the bourbon industry's impact on the Commonwealth. Good crowd here today, but obviously it pales in comparison to the crowds that gather every single day at distilleries and tasting rooms across the Commonwealth. And while there's a lot of energy around this release, it also pales in comparison to the energy around the new release of a distilled product here in Kentucky when it's a new release. So we all know that the politicians got to line up at events like this to take credit for things. But the fact of the matter is the credit belongs to the workers of this industry, the people that actually take the risk, that invest the capital, that create the jobs, that are truly changing this industry and benefiting the Commonwealth every single day. They range from farmers to cooperages to logistic companies, just to name a few. They are the men and women that work long hours and late nights to lift this industry to new heights and truly create an environment that enables this type of report to be brought to fruition. I will say, that noted, I am proud of the work that this legislature has done to facilitate growth in this industry. I'm talking specifically about House Bill 400, House Bill 5, Senate Bill 11, House Bill 500, which unleashed an already booming bourbon trend on the world and lifted this industry to heights that people like Elijah Craig and Evan Williams could never possibly have imagined. Talking about Senate Bill 99 that enabled local options at distilleries in dry counties. House Bill 351 that fixed the tax exemption for the purchase of new distilling equipment, and Senate Bill 68 that aimed at building a skilled workforce. Of course, we also responded to the industry's needs during the challenging times of the state shutdown during COVID-19, when the industry stepped up and converted its lines to producing hand sanitizer. This legislature when you recognize an opportunity to meet the growing demand of consumers, we passed legislation that allowed restaurants and bars that had take-home alcohol sales for food sales, and that was so well received that we actually made it permanent. We passed legislation that may possibly have the biggest impact yet once the rest of the world catches up. House Bill 415. By allowing direct-to-consumer shipping, we are unleashing Kentucky bourbon on the rest of the world. And of course, those are a few of the things that we have done to directly impact this industry. This legislature has also stepped up to cut taxes on businesses and individuals. We invested record amounts in education and workforce development, and we clipped government overreach. Our efforts, often in opposition from others, have made this Commonwealth a more attractive place to do business, a better place to live and work, and a better place to invest and grow your companies. As I wrap up, let's remember that the things that we are celebrating here today, an increase in jobs, growth in revenues, and an improved image of our Commonwealth and improved pride of our Commonwealth are possible in other industries and are possible in other areas of our Commonwealth. That's what happens when government works with stakeholders and risk takers to serve the people that they represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll also be remiss if I recognize all the distillers in the back of the room back here. You've got bourbon barons like Bill Samuels and Chris Morris, Master Distiller Brown Foreman. You've got Andrew Wilson, Hall of Famer, the first woman to ever chair the KDA board. You've got David Salmon, that's head of the growing Jackson Purchase Distillery down there. Dee Ford, who is the expert in Kentucky Bourbon Trail tourism. Kevin Smith and others back there. These are the rock stars of the industry, and we're so glad to have them here today. And I've got to also say, Senator Thayer, you are the only 4-time recipient of the KDA's 100 Proof Award, and you're retiring. So
Rewiring.
Rewiring. Okay, you're rewiring. So somebody might have to catch up to you here pretty soon. So thank you very much. Let me get my notes here, please. One of the most important things we've tracked over the years is bourbon's impact on Kentucky corn usage and production. To talk about how bourbon and agriculture go hand in hand, please welcome our new Commissioner of Agriculture, Jonathan Shell.
Celebrate the Kentucky Distillers Association of Bourbon. I'm here to celebrate Kentucky corn. And we've done a magnificent job of being able to help supply Kentucky corn for your industry to help in the growth that's happened here in Kentucky. And a couple of the numbers that we have is that the Kentucky Distillers have purchased 19 million bushels of corn and 2.6 million bushels of other grains in Kentucky last year. And that's about 70% of the purchases for the distilleries are Kentucky grown corn and small grains. What that means to me is that it's areas of this state that have a hard time with economic development, a hard time with gaining jobs and recruitment. This is an area in which they're able to help that with their local economies. So the distillers, the farmers, the people who work these fields, and the people who distill these spirits, this is something that helps rural Kentucky a tremendous amount. And so we're here to celebrate that from the corn side of it, from the rural side of it, from the job side of it. And we just want to say from the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, thank you all for helping make sure that our Kentucky farmers have an end user here in this state, that we can ensure that those farm families have a livelihood to live up to. Thank you very much.
All right.
One of the things you'll see in the report also is that in core distilling counties like Marion and Nelson and others, core production has gone up over 300% in the last couple of decades in there to provide, for liquid corn, to provide that to our distillers. All right, this report proves that Kentucky is the gold standard for bourbon. We have the purest spring water, we have an abundance of corn and white oak, we have 4 distinct climates that age our whiskey to perfection, and we have something that very few industries in the world can claim. Over 200 years of working together for the betterment of the industry and our Commonwealth. Leading that charge this year is KDA Board Chair Jessica Penergrass, who is the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer at Heaven Hill Distilleries. Jessica is also an award winner at KDA, receiving one of our first Esprit de Corps honors in 2020 for her leadership as chair during the COVID pandemic. Jessica, please, we welcome you.
Distinguished guests and fellow enthusiasts of Kentucky's bourbon and distilled spirits industry. I am thrilled to stand here today, not only in my capacity with Heaven Hill Distillery, but more importantly at this moment as the chair of the board for the Kentucky Distillers Association. It is truly an honor to share this platform with our dedicated partners that are here in Frankfort and across the broader industry. Today, we are here to reaffirm what we've always known. The Kentucky bourbon industry is thriving. It is evident that the current and future state of our industry is robust. You heard the statistics here today, and they speak volumes. A staggering $9 billion economic impact across the Commonwealth, generating more than 23,000 jobs, with annual salaries and wages of $1.63 billion. This report proudly supports and underscores not only the economic contributions of this industry to Kentucky, but also reflects the generations of dedication to crafting the world's best bourbon and distilled spirits in the country and around the world. In the ever-evolving landscape of our industry, challenges are inevitable. From tariffs to competition from other states and local headwinds, we've definitely faced our share of hurdles. In fact, being one of the highest taxed industries in the Commonwealth, as we saw from Dr. Coomes, our industry is generating about $222 million, or a 178% increase of tax revenues across the state compared to 2008. With these numbers in mind, Kentucky is currently tied for 11th in the number of federally licensed distilling operations by state. To me, this is a signal that there is still room for us to bring more jobs, more economic investment, and sustainable growth to the Commonwealth. There is so much potential for all of us going forward, and we know that your presence here today reflects the commitment to our shared vision for the prosperity of Kentucky. Across the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, we are united as one, from Owensboro to Louisville to Covington, and across the heartland of Kentucky in Frankfort, Lexington, and Bardstown. Throughout it all, we stand resilient, adapting to change, overcoming challenges, and working together as a collective team and supporting our local communities. Some might see us as competitors, and yes, on any given day, you may see us individually advocating for our own brands. But overall, as an industry, we come together, and we come together when it matters, working for a strong future for the Kentucky bourbon industry. It is a testament to our shared commitment to progress while staying true to the heritage and rich tradition of our great Commonwealth and recognizing the immense runway of growth for future generations here in Kentucky. On behalf of my colleagues across the bourbon industry and our amazing staff and esteemed board at KDA, with more than 100 members for the first time in its 140-year history, we extend our deepest gratitude to all of our partners, especially the unwavering support from Governor Andy Beshear, Senate President Robert Stivers, and House Speaker David Osborne, and a long, long list of all of our supporters here in Frankfort who love this state and the heritage of Kentucky bourbon. Bourbon is more than a drink. It is a symbol of our authenticity and our collective strength, and it represents the bright future that we all envision for Kentucky and the industry. While we've made significant strides, there is always potential for growth, and Dr. Coomes' report today speaks to that fact. By being here today, your understanding goes beyond the liquid in the bottle. You recognize that bourbon is the economic backbone of Kentucky. There is always room for growth, which we are working on now. Bourbon is woven into our history, it's embedded in our culture, and holds the key to our future prosperity. Together, we will continue to work towards a brighter future, all the while celebrating how far we've come. So in closing, let us applaud Kentucky Bourbon's continued success, the resilience of our industry, the bright future that lies ahead, and all of our partners here in Frankfort. Cheers.
Well done, Chairwoman Jessica. I've got to thank lastly Dr. Paul Coomes, who's standing over there waving. Dr. Coomes is finally, yes, he is finally embracing retirement. So this is his last study that he's doing with us. I've got the first study here, Dr. Coomes. It was 30 pages. We had no idea what was ahead of us, did we? I mean, this study I think is 94 pages, but the content is amazing. So thank you. Our friends at the University of Kentucky are going to take over this work for us. We're proud to have Seth DeBolt, who's head of the UK James B. Beam Institute, here with us today as well. To sum up for everybody, Kentucky bourbon is a $9 billion economic and tourism powerhouse for our Commonwealth, now generating more jobs, more payroll, more tax revenue, more tourists, and more distilleries in more Kentucky counties than ever before. So we'll end here right now. Unless anybody has any questions, thank you. And remember, please enjoy our fine bourbons like a true Kentuckian responsibly.